Greetings and salutations, my fellow sovereigns. This is the Vocational Science of Freedom Saturday Night Civics and Sovereignty class, and tonight we are going to be covering the Self-Reliance Quadrant. The Vocational Science of Freedom is segregated into 4 quadrants: self-reliance, self-awareness, self-governance, self-defense, with the core teaching being that we are all free, sovereign people. And I have revamped the Guilded server. And if you'd like to join the Vocational Science Freedom Guilded server, you can go to gilded.gg/VSOF. The link is on the Vocational Science Freedom YouTube page, and it is also in all of the show notes for all of the classes on YouTube and on Rumble, and our main repository is on Odyssey. And our Gab group is Gab group 30721. So, as far as the Guilded server is organized, we have it sovereignty at the top, and then we have self-awareness, self-governance, which I still need to flesh out a little bit, and self-reliance, and then self-defense at the bottom. And in each of the quadrants, I have the outline at the top for each one. Now, I gave everybody the total VSOF outline on the mega server in chat here. I dropped the link, so you guys can download the entire actual file, meaning the totality of what all of the outline is for all of the quadrants. And let me open that up real quick, and I'll show you guys what it'll look like when you click on the mega link. And this mega link will be in the chat and also in the show notes. And all you have to do is come here and just double click it, and that'll open it up. And I think I'll actually open this up into, just so we can see it a little bit better, I think I'll open it up from my actual main file here. So let me open that up real quick. Okay, so let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. So this is the master file outline for the Vocational Science of Freedom. This is something that I've been working on right when I started the VSOF, and this whole organizational system, if you will, regarding how one needs to organize their understanding to be and stay sovereign, not only in America, but anywhere, actually came to me in a dream state. I woke up in the middle of the night, and the whole symbol and all of it was actually completely in my head. And I grabbed a pen and a notepad that I keep next to my bed, and I literally sketched the whole thing out in complete darkness. I didn't even turn on the light. And then when I looked at it in the morning, I said, yep, that's what I've got to focus on fleshing out. And from that dream, that waking dream, I then started this master file outline for the Vocational Science of Freedom. And it starts with sovereignty, which I'll kind of skip because we did the sovereignty class not that long ago, which is already posted on all of the platforms. And I will scroll down here to self-reliance. So the aspect of self-reliance is, are you controlled by any system? And what do I mean by that? It goes to the definition of slavery itself. And the substantive definition of a slave or slavery is one who is controlled by something or is overly dependent upon something. So if you're dependent 100% on the current agricultural system and you have no idea how to grow your own food, you would have no idea how to go out into the wilderness and gather your own food, then you are by definition a slave simply by that lack of control of that aspect of being self-reliant. And as is anything else, meaning it doesn't just have to do with food. It can do with if you have to buy water. I mean, most people have water, but if you're in a situation where, hey, you got to find water, you have to know how to get it. Well, then the rule of threes kicks in. And if you don't know what the rule of threes is, it's a survival rule. And it's 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 hours in exposure of severe weather, whether it be cold or hot, 3 minutes without air, and 3 seconds without blood to your brain. and you're dead. So that's the rule of threes. And you want to keep the rule of threes in the back of your mind at all times, just as a general life lesson. Now, you don't have to be a survivalist. You don't have to have spent 9 months in the wilderness by yourself with your bug out bag and your traps and your sidearm, like I did, to have to live on this planet. But I would highly suggest that everybody start to gather those skills just in case you ever have to do it. Because luckily enough, I had those skills and went out to the wilderness to do that. Not 100% of my own volition, but I survived perfectly fine and had quite a good time out there because I had the skills to survive. And I took the tools with me to do so, of which I won't get into, but I might at some point in time write out, well, it's already written out, I should say, do a class on my journals that I kept during that time. But so anyway, to get back to the Self-Reliance Quadrant. So again, as I said, the Self-Reliance layouts are in the top of each quadrant. And all I have to do is click on it, and then you can just click on the master file here, the Self-Reliance topics, and scroll down, and you'll see that they're pretty much the same as they are in the master file here. So food, your caloric acquisition. Okay, so how do you grow food? Well, gardening, low-intensity agriculture, focus on your seed storage because obviously Monsanto is trying to kill you. Forest gardening. Now, I did entire classes on forest gardening, which are on the platforms, so I don't need to go into that in detail, but basically forest gardening, in short, is the technology of using every aspect of the canopy to produce your food. So in modern agriculture, which was more or less perpetuated in its current form, after World War II, and you had all of these nitrogen plants that were creating nitrogen to build bombs. And then afterwards, they said, well, what can we do with all this nitrogen? Well, they started to spray it into the ground. And that's where you get these fields that now no longer have the proper amount of nitrogen that should naturally be there by rotating crops, by putting on cover crops in the winter and then tilling them back in the spring, because nobody grows hemp anymore, which used to be a very good cover crop to do that, and you just till it back in. And a lot of these sustainable technologies and understandings of the way farming used to be done really got thrown to the wayside after World War II, and then on a super advanced level when Monsanto started to take over the entire farming industry with their frankenseeds that are quote unquote Roundup ready, which basically means that the seed is genetically engineered to be able to take and be doused with Roundup, which is a severe, just horrible poison to the land, and it kills everything in the land for the exception of the crop. Well, okay. Any soil ecologist will tell you that good, healthy soil, 30% of the biomass in the soil itself is actually mycelium, meaning the carbon mass in the soil. 30% of it is mycelium growing in and through that soil, in healthy soil. And then you have all of the rest of the flora and fauna that live within that soil to grow their communities, if you will. And they're all symbiotic communities. If you take, for example, one statistic that always blew me away was that if you take any root of a tree, like a full-grown tree, down into the ground, for every meter of tree root underneath the ground, there is a kilometer of mycelium growing in and around it. And that's absolutely insane, but it's true. And it just goes to show you how advanced the soil mycology is as far as how mycelium work underneath the soil. And so to understand that is to have the basis of how to grow a good garden. If you don't have your mycelium in balance, if you don't have your wood underneath and put the proper mycelium in there, and the soil's just dead, or say, looking at a field of Monsanto that's been sprayed with Monsanto for 10 years. You're going to take a look at that soil. You're going to put it underneath a microscope. It's going to be dead. If you go into an old growth forest, however, and you pick up a handful of soil and you put it under a microscope, you'll see all of these things growing as they should. And then, since we're on the topic of soil and how it grows, there's one very, very advanced soil, which was, well, not was, it still is, can be found in certain places in the Amazon rainforest. And what many people believe now, including Paul Stamets and many others, that what the people in Central America that lived in the rainforest, there used to be civilizations there that had millions of people living in them. And what they now believe is that the entire Amazon rainforest is actually an advanced forest garden that hasn't been tended for a few thousand years. That's why the vast majority of the large trees in the Amazon are large producing trees like Brazil nut trees and other things that can feed humans. But civilization's no longer there because when the Europeans got here, they brought along this little thing called smallpox, and it wiped out, decimated, I think somehow like 80% of the population, and then the rest of those civilizations just vanished. But the one thing that stayed was the cultivation of the trees itself and this amazing soil, which is called terra preta. And you can look this up. I'm not exactly sure how to spell it. If somebody wants to throw a link in the chat, that'd be great. And what this soil is, you can take a handful of this soil, and it was a soil that was created, and nobody, to this day, no one knows how they did it. Like, the technology is lost. But the ancient people in the Amazon rainforest created this terra preta, and it was extremely rich and could grow practically anything on it. And if you take a handful of this terra preta and then you put it into soil that's destroyed or is lacking in various different nutrients, the terra preta will literally start to grow out throughout the rest of that soil and literally heal it, if you will. So that's just a little bit of history into soil ecology, ancient history. But modern history, as far as that we just have now started to learn that this is what they were doing. And to be able to support millions of people in those civilizations, basically without any problem at all, the easiest way to do that is forest gardening. The way you don't do it is flatten forests, cut everything down, and plant one single monocrop of a cereal grain that we really probably shouldn't be eating anyway. So that's the little gardening section. And then next for food is gathering. So you should learn wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this, you should learn about what zone you're in. You should learn about what bushes and trees and plants and mushrooms grow in your zone. And you should learn how to identify them. At least take the effort to identify the most readily available, edible plants in your area, whatever they may be. And then if you have some land, best thing to do is to perpetuate your own forest garden. Start to plant the trees that you want. Start to plant the bushes, the plants. Start to learn about how to perpetuate and better the soil in your area by planting nitrogen-fixing plants and trees. There's only a small list of nitrogen-fixing trees. However, locust trees are one of them. There's a great book called Forest Gardening by a gentleman named Martin Crawford. I spoke about this book before in the forest gardening lecture, and that book will show you all of the various different trees and plants and bushes as well that are nitrogen fixing that you'll want to plant around whatever else is that you're going to want to have, whether it be just apple trees or whatever can grow in your zone. Okay. And then next down for self-reliance in food is animal husbandry. If you have land, you can do large animals. Obviously, they take a little bit more work, but depending, there's many types of larger animals, if you will. There's mini goats that do very well for milking, so you can get goat milk from that. And if you got a lot of land and you know how to produce your grasses, meaning if you know how to take care of the grasses of which, say, cows would live on, then you can do that. There's a gentleman, I forget his name. He was in a documentary, and anyway, he was in England, and obviously English weather is a little bit different. It doesn't really hard freeze super hard like it does in a lot of places in the United States. But the one thing he figured out is that he mastered the various different kinds of grass seed for his fields. And some grasses grew fast, some grasses grew slowly, some grasses had deep roots, some grasses spread out quickly, some grasses were very tight, others grew tall, others grew short. And he mixed these grass seeds to the point where the cows could graze all day long and they wouldn't cut up and destroy the fields, because cows are pretty heavy creatures, and stomping around all the time, they would tend to destroy a area of grass if it were not laid out in that way. So, but not everybody's going to be having cows, but small animals you can have. Everybody should be learning how to raise chickens. Chickens are easy. They're a great source of protein. You can get eggs from them. You can pretty much let the chickens just roam wild all through the summer. They'll find enough insects, bugs, and just eat grass. And they'll also help keep certain things knocked down, meaning negative animals. I wouldn't just let them go crazy wild in just any garden, because there are some things that chickens will tend to want to chomp up that you probably don't want them to eat. But there's also ducks as well. And ducks can be great for keeping slug populations down in gardens. That's pretty much like the one thing that they're really, really good at. Duck eggs are great, even though they don't produce as often and as many as, say, chickens do. But and if you keep ducks, you want to have like a little bath of water so they can play in, at least if you don't have a natural spring or a creek or a small pond. And then fish and water animals, this really does depend on having a pond and or a creek to be able to perpetuate it. Well, actually, I take that back. There was a gentleman I knew who raised tilapia in his greenhouses. And I think he lived in zone 4, which gets pretty cold in winter. And the greenhouse stayed warm enough that inside he could keep the tilapia growing and feeding them all winter long. And what it was a aquaponics system, aquaponics, hydroponics. I always get those two confused. Anyway, the system that the water gets circulated through the fish tanks, and then the water circulates back up through the plants, so that the plants then gain the nutrients from the fish waste, and it's a whole entire system. So you can grow tilapia, and basically you just can get a couple of 50-gallon plastic barrels. Just make sure they weren't used for any sort of chemicals or whatnot. Make sure they were just, food grade and whatnot, that you don't want to be poisoning your fish nor poisoning yourself. And then there was 2 pumps at the bottom, one faced one way and one faced the other way, and it just continually circulated the water, meaning it just basically spun it in a circle so that the fish could just swim against the current. And the guy raised tilapia, no problem. So that's always an option. And then next under animal husbandry is pets used as helpers. I highly suggest, if you're out in the country, get an intelligent guard dog. A dog that will help protect your other animal friends and your helpers and won't eat them themselves. So things like sheepdogs, and there's another breed that escapes me at the moment. They're really good for protecting goats. But anyway, they'll always warn you, the humans, if anything's around, they'll start barking. And dogs have a pretty good radar, and they have a far better nose and far better sense of hearing than we do. So that's another good thing to always have around. And then, of course, cats are just good in case you got a barn and have hay or put up straw. They just help keep the mice population down. And then next is D, hunting and trapping. And so basically find it. So understand your tracking, understand and learn what different animals' prints look like. Learn how to track. You don't have to get super good at it, but just know your basics of your animals in your area. Learn the habitats of animals, learn what they like to do and their normal function, right, throughout a day. Are they nocturnal? Where do they tend to go? What trees do they tend to climb? If you're looking for raccoon or whatnot. There's quite a few small animals in North America that could literally sustain you if you needed to, which I did when I was out in the wilderness. And then the range of animals, their habitat, how far do they go? Are they around your area or not? And then fishing, obviously that's self-explanatory. You should always keep a basic, simple fishing kit in your bug out bag and in your car. And I would also highly suggest buying what's called yo-yo reels. You guys can look up what a yo-yo reel is. It's basically like a self fishing type of apparatus it's spring loaded. It's on a coiled spring. And so when the fish bites on whatever bait it is and it pulls a little bit on the yo-yo reel snaps back and sets the hook, and then it keeps tension on the fish until basically the fish just gets completely worn out and you don't have to be there. And there were days when I was out in the wilderness and I'd set 5 or 6 yo-yo reels out in the creek and go off and check my traps. And I came back 2 hours later and I'd have 2 or 3 fish, sometimes even 4 fish. And I didn't even have to do anything. So it's like trapping, but with fish in a different way. So I highly suggest that everybody get a yo-yo reel. They're very inexpensive. I think you can they're basically like $1 each. So let me bring up chat, by the way, in case anybody's been dropping anything. So I only have one outline up. Okay. So, thanks, John, for that, for the Terra Preta. Next section is water. So first food, second water. So bodies of water, wells, rain, storage, filtration, distillation, testing, gathering water by evaporation. All of these things are things that you should learn how to do. And as far as the totality of self-reliance, as far as what a VSOF member has access to, both in the Self-Reliance Quadrant of the Guilded server and what a VSOF lifetime member gets with my entire hard drive. The VSOF yearly members all have access to the VSOF online library. And I've shown this many times, but I'll just show you guys the general outline of what's in here. It has quite a bit of information on the VSOF members online library. And the first 3 folders are all the quadrant folders. And then pretty much everything else other than what's in self-awareness, self-defense, and self-reliance is pretty much all self-governance, because obviously we focus a lot about the law. So pretty much everything else after that is all self-governance. But in the self-reliance folder, I've collected a lot of self-reliance videos, and they're all categorized in various different folders here, of which you can download at your own volition if you're a VSOF member right off the mega server. And I have encyclopedias, books and guides. I have bug out bag organizational plans. If you don't have a bug out bag yet, I highly suggest that you make one, because you never know when an emergency might happen. And whether you're trained EMT or whether you're a first responder, you're going to know, all first responders are going to know and have their bug out bag. And if they're an EMT, then they're going to have their med kits with them, and so on and so forth. And I did a short class one time. We kind of covered bug out bags a little bit, but I feel like I should go back to that subject, and probably will during the summer. It's a good time to just get out, because then you can test everything. You can take your bug out bag, go out into an area and just say, hey, I'm going to spend 5 days out here. And if I make it, well, then your bag works and you got everything you need. And if not, you can have real world experience and say, well, I was kind of missing this, or I wish I had more of that, or that didn't work out so well, or maybe my tent setup wasn't exactly what I liked, or whatever. There's books on buildings and shelter, quite a few actually. Truth be told, there's probably enough books in here about how to build things that you probably don't ever need another repository. I have bushcraft books, carpentry, free energy in here, invention, just a need to sort one. It's kind of got all kinds of stuff in it. Recipes, self-reliance food, soil, garden, animals, gathering. This also has other folders inside it. So, and then self-reliance medical, and then survival as far as water is concerned. So all these, and then this is the totality of the list on the left-hand side here of what is in the hard drive, which is now up to, the lifetime members hard drive is now up to 817 gigs. And I haven't even added 2 different drives that I actually got from 2 different people over the winter. So that those still need to go in here as well. But so a lifetime member gets everything that's in the mega folder plus everything else that I've ever collected on Self-Reliance. So everything is in here. So just wanted to show you guys that, and then go back to the outline here and keep going down. And so we got water and shelter construction, which I just kind of showed you guys all the books for. I've also saved a lot of videos regarding earthships as well. The earthship designs are a pretty advanced technique as far as sustainable shelter. Now, obviously, they take a bit to construct, but once constructed, they're damn near indestructible as far as even earthquakes and tornadoes and whatnot, unless maybe get a category 5 straight into your front of you, but that's highly unlikely. And anyway, the earthships you can look up and just type in earthship into your favorite video sharing platform, and you'll find probably the documentary called Garbage Warrior, which I highly suggest that everybody watch. It's a great documentary about the gentleman who developed earthships. He's out of Taos, New Mexico, and they have a whole community down in Taos, New Mexico, where they build these things, and then they have classes. Basically, it's basically a whole, I guess you'd call it a, not just a seminar, because it goes almost for like an entire month. You have to devote practically like an entire month of your life to go down there. And I guess you'd call it more like an academy. And you take the earthship courses, and during that entire period of time, you learn how to build one from scratch. And then after you've gone through the courses, you can actually you can travel to different countries if you want to and help people build them. Or you can stay right there in Taos, New Mexico and help people build them as well. And what an earthship provides is, well, it's a lot to describe. Again, I've covered earthships in our shelter classes, of which I'll also bring up here just in a moment. I'll show you guys as far as the quadrants are concerned on the YouTube channel. I have everything organized by quadrants. Now, if you're not exactly tech savvy, or if you don't quite know how YouTube works, all you have to do to see all of the videos in a playlist is just click here on the top of the playlist. So if you wanted to see all of the videos in Self-Reliance, of which I don't have all of them up on YouTube, I do have all of them up on Odyssey, because in some of the Self-Reliance we talk about various different things that YouTube doesn't like, so I can't put them all in here. But whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Odyssey you can just simply click on playlists, and then you can see the playlists here: Self-Reliance, self-governance, self-defense, and so on. And then you can just click on the playlist, and then everything's down the side here of everything that we've done. And the sustainable shelter video, that was the one where I'm pretty sure we covered the earthships. So that's where you guys can find the playlists for the VSOF and by the quadrants. And obviously I have other playlists on here, like the timeline class, status docs class, so on and so forth, and my all day classes, which are here. And then some other ones, which are other people's works, like the Bernus Speakman Legacy, Fall of the Cabal, so on and so forth. But so that's how you can find the quadrants. And of course, obviously, the VSOF is organized by the quadrants on every section. The only platform I can't do this with is Rumble, because Rumble doesn't yet have playlists. But I still color code everything by the bullseye. So green is self-defense, orange is self-awareness, blue is self-governance, and then red is self-reliance. And so you can just look at the tagline and you'll know what quadrant it's in. So, okay, so back to the outline. So as far as what I did with and wanting to organize the Guilded server, I wanted to organize it in the way that followed the 4 quadrants. And there's stuff that is kind of on the Guilded server in the VSOF library and archive, which I will move into their appropriate quadrants once I got all the rest of these completely fleshed out the way I want to. I pretty much have all of the outlines are exactly the way they should be. They just need to be, some of the rooms I need to fill up because, like I said, I've got a lot of stuff in the library and archive, which just used to kind of be the place where we saved a lot of information. And there's a lot of information in there. And I don't want to just obviously get rid of it because there's been a lot of good information given. And there's reference section and everything else as far as there's a lot more self-governance in the archive section. But anyway, there is some self-reliant stuff in here as well. And I will move that into the quadrant sections of the main chat or the main room on the side. And just for simple functioning as far as Guilded is concerned, if you want to see the main section of the server is here, and then the subgroups are below that to click on. And some of you might not be able to see some of them, like not all of you will be able to see the scribe room, but everybody should be able to see the committee room. You'll be able to see your state under state assemblies, and everybody can see the archive room as well. Oh, thank you for putting up the Earthship. Yep, that's his site. That's the Earthship Builders biotexture site. So thanks for throwing that up. And yep, and Garbage Warrior, thank you very much, Wakey, for throwing that up as well. Okay, so going down the outline here. So next from shelter. Oh, well, hold on. I didn't quite get done with shelter. So we got the Earthships, rainwater collection. This is just an aspect also of what you should be doing with your shelter, because anybody that has a roof should be collecting rainwater, just simply so that you can put it on your garden and you don't have to be billed for it, particularly if you're in the city. Luckily, if you live in the country, you have a well and you just have to spend a little bit of electricity to get it. Or even better yet, you might have a small pond or a creek running through your property. All the better. Then there's also cob construction. What cob is a building material. It is made from straw, sand, clay, and then usually a bit of cow manure. And then that's pretty much it. And it's done by a particular proportion, which I don't know off the top of my head. But I have used it before, and I have gone to like cob seminars where you actually build stuff all day with it. And it's pretty easy to do. You just kind of put all the stuff onto a tarp, and then you kind of fold it and stomp on it, and then fold it and stomp on it. And it turns it into this material called cob. And then you can shape it in whatever form you want, and you can build walls out of it. And there have been some amazing things that people have built with cob construction over the years. I've seen some enormous actual houses built out of cob. But it's very organic. You can make it move in any direction you want to. You can rotate a wall. You can do whatever you want to with it. And you can even build an oven in the side of your wall with it. And you can build little outdoor ovens with them, just small little things you can do as far as like a little cover oven where you put the wood in there, heat it all up, and then, put the coals to the side and then throw pizza in there or bake some bread or whatever you want to do. But cob is an ancient building material. It goes probably prehistory, honestly. There's still cob buildings, I believe, in the English Isles, which date back thousands of years. They're not super readily available to just walk into, but I know that they're still there because there was just this one funny story about an old English pub that was built out of cob construction. And the story goes that no one even knows exactly how old the thing is, which I thought was kind of funny. But if you take care of cob and then you make sure to protect the outside of the area with something, you can either, attach rocks to it or something else, or just put basically like like the material that Wakey just put into the shot. I forget what's the white material that people put on the outside of buildings. Anyway, it might come to me. But you can put that on once you're done with the cob. Then you can add this on top of it. Stucco. Thank you. So if you put stucco on the outside of cob, it's pretty much there forever. And as long as you paint it and you keep it in good condition, you have a house that is pretty much impermeable and will last forever, depending on what kind of roof you put on it. As long as you keep, take care of the roof. So, but you can do it very organically. It's a really fun thing to work with. And yes, you can make a hobbit house out of it, or you can make a 5-bedroom huge thing out of it. It's really whatever your imagination wants to come up with. And honestly, we as Americans should get away from prefabricated houses that are created out of building materials that vent toxic gases into your bloodstream all day long and get back to things that, one, we can do ourselves, two, are far more efficient, three, are good for the environment as far as, just takes a little bit more labor, but will ultimately save you money and building materials and cost. Actually, I really like that one. That's an amazing house that they did. So there you go. I mean, 2-story, organic. The flow of it looks really neat. Looks like they've got a veggie roof. Looks like it's got a ferns on it. So yeah, you can do damn near anything with cob. It's really amazing. So yeah, so cob construction definitely. And then other thing under construction is emergency shelter. So your emergency shelter should be implemented into your bug out system, whatever that may be. And certainly for your entire family. So if you have an entire family, you should have a 5-person tent, or you should have a bug out trailer that you should just hook up to the back of your truck and you're out of there. Whether the trailer turns into a place to be able to weather the storm or whatnot, that's fine. I've seen builds like that are great. So having emergency portable shelter is important. And whether it just be for one person, I mean, I can literally grab my bug out bag and my tent kit and my medic bag and my backpack, put them on my bike, and I can go anywhere. No gas, no nothing, silent. I can bike at night and be completely untraceable if I needed to. So, have an emergency plan is not just your bug out bag, but it's basically also your bug out shelter as well. Oh, see, that's really neat. I like that cob one. Yeah, that's just a nice sitting place, but has a nice little oven there. You could cook your pizzas in, and everybody can just sit around and shoot the shit and have some beers, and you can make a pizza at the same time and get warmed up if it's a cool night. Yeah, that's neat. And this is how I would suggest you start when you start building with cob. Do something small. Do something, check it out. Play with it. Try the ideas. And you can add stone to it as well. So if you're in a place where you have a lot of stone, it doesn't have to be all cob. You can just kind of cob the stones together. So on to the next one. Number 4, regulation of body temperature. This is obviously clothes. Oh, how bulletproof is it? If you would have half a foot of cob, it would stop a lot. It probably, say half a foot probably would not stop 7.62 NATO, but it would probably stop 5.56. Probably stop all handgun, except maybe like the most powerful handguns. It might go through it, but I mean, if you put stone within it, well, then it should pretty much stop damn near anything except maybe a 50 cal. So yeah, and it's all just dependent on how thick you want to do it anyway. I mean, if you really wanted your walls to be bulletproof when you decided to build them, put some steel plate in there. No one's going to know you have steel plate in your walls because you're the ones that built them, and it'll be in the middle of the cob anyway. Or you can just use a lot of stone. So either way, you pretty much have a bulletproof wall, which, depending on what's coming, might be a good idea. Okay, so anyway, regulation of body temperature. Okay, so self-reliance as far as clothes are concerned. What are the materials that we as humans have used? Hemp, wool, cotton, and furs, and leathers as well, which I don't have in here, but I probably should. So hemp is probably the best thing to buy as far as if you're gonna cut out your own clothes and sew your own clothes together. Hemp lasts the longest. It's still kind of expensive until people probably get back around to growing more hemp as far as a industrial product, which used to be a very industrial product, of which used to be all over the place. And people had most of their clothes made out of hemp until this is some weird history that you guys may or may not know. So anyway, the Hearst family, who was basically some of the lumber barons, if you will, of the North. I believe they were, don't hold me to this, but I believe they were stationed out of northern Wisconsin. But anyway, the Hearst family basically had this huge propaganda campaign, if you will, against hemp, because they realized it was like a direct competitor to pulp wood fiber for paper, because hemp paper is vastly superior to wood pulp paper, whether it's newspapers, whether it's books, doesn't matter. And then obviously when Henry Ford started building entire cars out of it, I think they saw the problems. They're like, oh boy. So they started this entire campaign, and they called it reefer madness. So they started just downplaying hemp, thinking that everybody's smoking hemp, everybody's going crazy. Well, hold on. Hemp that you're growing in a field for fiber is not the same thing as a concentrated strain of, say, either indica or sativa of marijuana. Two entirely different plants, right? Had nothing to do with the other. But they perpetuated this campaign, got everybody to believe it, and then so the politicians, idiots, went along with it, and they started to ban the production of hemp, and which was stupid. Literally stupid. I mean, there was a time, and this is going even farther back, but there was a time where all of the warships, we still had wooden warships, the hemp industry, because it was all about the strongest rope, possibly. And that's a good point, McPherry, is right when I was bringing this up, that it was considered a matter of national security that the hemp industry was functioning and that it was at its highest quality that it could be, because the strongest ropes that you had were literally the life and death situation of whether, when you took a broadside out in the middle of the Atlantic against, whoever, that your warship held up because it had, the stronger ropes in it. And that was serious. So yeah, exactly. It was mandatory to grow. Yeah, good point. You're right. It was an absolutely mandatory for certain amounts of acreage to be grown, for hemp to be grown in, for good reason. So anyway, I probably could go on for a whole class about hemp, but I'll leave it there. Okay. So wool is one of the few fibers that will you can stay warm even if it's wet. So if you buy your outdoor clothing and you have your bug out clothing, make sure that you've got wool socks, and or also the other thing that would be good for socks that also does the same thing when it's wet is bison fur. But wool or bison fur socks, make sure you have a couple pair of them. Make sure you have wool gloves. Make sure you have a wool hat. And it's also a very good idea to have one type of wool undergarment. I wouldn't suggest a shirt because wool is very scratchy. So have it be just like a sweatshirt that you would put underneath your jacket. Or you can have a jacket that's stuffed full of wool, but that gets a little bit difficult as far as the cleaning sometimes, as far as that's concerned. As far as the stuffing is concerned, I would go with something that would be more of a down thing, like goose or whatnot. But then also make sure that the outside of the jacket that you have is fairly weatherproof. And then cotton. Cotton is kind of what America was kind of built on as far as, the cotton fields and what the textile industry was made from. Cotton's great. It's breathable, but it's kind of inexpensive. And that's really the thing that's probably the best thing about it at the moment, because it just dominates the industry. And then furs, and learning how to, and with furs, I would just put hides as well as far as leather is concerned. But if you do not yet know how to skin an animal and cure the hide with the brains of the animal, I highly suggest that you learn how to do that, because every animal has just the amount of brains to cure the hide that's on the animal. Strange as that sounds, but that's how it works. I don't want to get into that. I did it when I was out in the wilderness. I did various different things. I just, because you have a lot of time out there, so I tended to cure a lot of hides just for fun, sort of, and try it out, because I really had only tried it a little bit, but I kind of perfected my skill at it and craft at it out there. And then you can have your furs, you can have blankets, you can have hats, you can make clothing out of it, and you can stay warm. So, okay, regulation of body temperature clothes. Also, to keep in mind with regulation of body temperature, also just again, remember the rule of threes. Okay, next one, number 5, healing arts. And this is where I hope a lot of people in the VSOF who have a lot of knowledge in various different healing arts, have fun and start posting things in the healing arts room. Now there's a healing arts chat room, which is just a feed, and I just started it, so there's nothing in here yet. And then there's a healing arts forum room. Again, nothing's in here yet, but you can start any topic you want. You could put in here headache remedies, or you could put in here general health remedies, or you could put in here acupuncture, whatever you are good at, whatever your focus is. Or if any paramedics out there, go ahead and talk about what you have in your medic kit. What should you have in your trauma bag? That goes in here as well. So there's a lot of people on the VSOF that have a vast amount of knowledge in the healing arts. I've talked to many of you, and thank you for all of the help that you've given me as far as suggestions to help my own health is concerned. But as far as the categories, because I haven't fleshed them out yet, but some of the categories in the forum rooms here can be herbs and their remedies, surgery and bone setting, chi healing, which would be everything regarding acupuncture points and chi meridians. Physiology, this is actually covered in A16. Oh, and by the way, a little thing about the notes here as far as to find what you're talking about. So A1 would be awareness. So awareness 1, subsection 6. So what we're reading from here is the Self-Reliance one. Oh, actually, I was looking at the wrong thing. But yeah, okay. I actually need to move healing arts. That's why I was looking at this wrong. So the healing arts is actually down here. That's right, because I moved it yesterday. So sorry, I was looking at the wrong section at the moment. But so in A1, so A1 means awareness 1-6. So that would be up at the top, or wherever it is, self-awareness 1-6. So what we were reading from here, when you look at them, so this is R1, 1, or R12, R13, R14, R15, right? And then the subsections are A, B, C, D, E, F, so on and so forth. So that's how you would specifically name a specific part of the VSOF quadrant section. And you guys don't need to memorize that. It's my own internal way of remembering where I keep things, basically. So that I know that, hey, under healing arts, it's kind of important to know your physiology, but it's covered in self-awareness, your own understanding of your own body. I felt it was more important to put into self-awareness than in self-reliance. So, okay. And then biology of belief. This is Bruce Lipton's work on stem cells and the understanding of epigenetics. That's an enormous subject that I don't want to get into, but I highly suggest that everybody take a look at Bruce Lipton's work and understand that epigenetics is the understanding that our DNA, yes, has a program to it. However, you're the one that decides to turn on or off that program. And environmental input has a lot to do with that, meaning if you're constantly, putting poison into your body, well, guess what? Your DNA is going to turn on the thing that says, it looks like it might be decided to be a cancer cell today. And it works the opposite directions to heal your body as far as what the capacity of your own DNA is. But it's something that you turn on and off of your own volition. And so I can't possibly say enough about Bruce Lipton's work. Just go check him out. Biology of Belief. It's also in the Self-Reliance folder as far as the videos are concerned. I believe I have some of Bruce Lipton's videos in there. And if not, I'll check after class to make sure that they are in there, because I know I do have them. And then electromagnetic healing. This would be Rife, the knowledge that was gained and perpetuated by Dr. Rife, who learned that certain electromagnetic frequencies will destroy various different viruses and various different bacteria in the body. And there's still work today being done on what they call basically healing beds, where you lay down in a bed. Some people call them med beds. And the technology has been around for a very long time. It's just that it's been suppressed and it's been destroyed. But the capacity to create or invent, or I should say just re-engineer, a med bed or a healing bed that you could lay down in for, an hour a day and heal pretty much anything that's a problem with you, is well within the knowledge of human capacity right now. And okay, thank you. There you go, Judd. Yep. Radionic healing, meditation, EMF protection. Yep. And if everybody wants to find, you can find just a Rife. You can look up Rife machine. Forgive me because I don't exactly remember how to spell his name, but you can look up Rife machine. You can look up med beds, and these are all things that hopefully very soon we should all just have the ability to have in our own home. Now I know that people can still get. You can still buy a Rife machine, and basically what it is it's a vacuum tube that you put a certain frequency through, and then if it's at a certain frequency that your ears can hear it, you can actually hear it in the room. But what it does is it puts that frequency into a room. So basically everyone that's in the room kind of ends up absorbing that frequency, whatever you set it to. So I know those are still available because I used to know somebody who had one in their house. So okay, so that's healing arts, and this can be expanded out. Not everything's covered in here, but that's why you guys can open up the rooms. And if you have any suggestions as far as other things that you'd like in Self-Reliance, whether they be in the master folder or otherwise, that's fine. You can just DM me, or you can just put it in Self-Reliance General here. And by the way, the Self-Reliance Quadrant, this is the only quadrant right now that's open for everybody to post in. I'm going to do a class like this on each quadrant, and then I'm going to open up that quadrant for everybody to post. But I set the roles for Self-Reliance here for everyone. So anybody and everyone can post into Self-Reliance now. So I just wanted you guys to know that. But if you have any suggestions, go ahead and put it in the Self-Reliance chat room. That's fine. And I'll see it, and just go ahead and, ping me as you usually do. Okay, number 6, power systems, electricity. So wind, water, solar. Heat exchange into steam is a big one. There was 2 gentlemen that once got together, and I would dare say that this is probably the most efficient. Thank you, Judd, for the Rife therapy link. And these 2 gentlemen got together. One of them invented the most efficient steam engine in the world, and the other one invented the most efficient heat exchange system in the world. And they decided to get together, and they hooked the heat exchanger up to the steam engine, and it powered a whole house with just one little cell outside of the house facing south. And Big Oil got wind of that, and those 2 guys aren't here anymore. But the technology is. So that would be something that you would do, but not necessarily want to tell everybody that you're doing. But there's nothing stopping you from creating that system and just setting it up on your house. And basically what the heat exchanger was I don't know if you guys know what a hyperbolic mirror is. It's basically a curved mirror. And anyway, they had the heat exchanger had a curved mirror, basically half a cylinder around a black pipe, and it went throughout, like it went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth in a enclosed, I believe it was a plexiglass front that the heat came into. It hit that mirror, superheated the pipes, and that's what superheated the water and turned it into steam out the other side, which ran the steam engine. And so basically all you need for that system is water, and that's it. And you plug it in and off you go. And you could just run it into a battery system. And I suppose you could probably run it into an AC system on some level, but I wouldn't be the one to have the expertise to do that. But I would just suggest setting up and getting a battery system for your house, and then you could just power the whole entire battery system, and it would definitely fill it up during the day when the sun's out, and you just run off it at night, and you'd have more power than you'd ever need. So basically, fuck the electric company. And then your typical solar panels, if you want to put those on your house, yes, those are available, and you can do that as well. I tend to think of solar more useful as being kind of an emergency portable type of technology, for me at least. I have a portable solar cell, which I bought specifically so I could take on my bike, take it with me so it's light, but I could also charge things like my tablet and my phone if necessary, particularly my tablet, because I keep all of the Self-Reliance books that I give you guys on my tablet as an emergency bug out system of knowledge, and everybody should have that. I bought an old tablet, so it's not connected to anything, and I never allow it to go online, and I just keep the information on there, and the tiny little micro SD cards, those things can get up to, 200-300 gigs now. So you can take everything with you on a tablet. There's no questions asked. And so I got the little portable solar panel for that. So, and yeah, there's probably good deals right now. Actually, solar's coming down in price quite a bit. So could you run your whole house off of it? Yeah. In fact, I know some people that's what they do. They go around and teach people how to do that for a living. So, okay. So number 7, systems of trade and exchange. So here's a big one for everyone. Constitutional money, gold and silver. If you do not have a constitutional money system started in your community, you should start one. Meaning, talk to your neighbors, find out what they have. Is there anything that they do good as far as products, as far as resources? Maybe they've got timber you want. Ask them to purchase it in gold and silver. Start educating people that is real money. And if they don't believe you, just bring up Article 1, Section 10. No state shall make anything but gold and silver a tender in payment of debt. If you give somebody a Federal Reserve note, you have not paid your debt. You have discharged your debt onto somebody else because they're now holding the IOU, which are never going to be redeemed. So gold and silver, if you don't have it, start purchasing it. I would suggest if you're saving 10% of your income for your retirement, at this point, make sure that 5% of it is gold and silver. And do not keep any money in the bank whatsoever. Because at 7% inflation, you keep money in the bank, you've just lost 7% of it every single year. A bank is not a place to hold wealth or store wealth at all. It's a place to lose wealth. And then on top of that, understand fair trade, understand what gold and silver is worth. I would highly suggest, which is kind of a fun thing to do, look up late 1800 magazines and things like that as to what things were selling for and how much silver they cost. That's always kind of fun to do. And then have fair trade between your neighbors and understand what the value is of the gold and silver. And then, of course, there's buyers clubs, cooperative organizations, and there's also private membership organizations, PMAs. And if anybody wants to start a PMA, there's been some great work in the PMA committee already. In fact, we already have an entire template. Teacher and Mumbles did a great job putting together the PMA template, and it's in the PMA forum if you guys need to download it. There's PMA template and organization papers, mega link for the PMA committee, and the committee chair is teacher. So he worked on that, as did Mumbles, and they put together a great PMA organizational paperwork. In fact, Mumbles even took it to an attorney, and he actually asked the attorney, "Hey, could you make me an organizational paperwork for the PMA?" And the attorney read what we have on the VSOF, and he said, I can't do any better than that. Just go with what you got there. So I thought that was really cool that those guys got that done in a way that, even the attorney couldn't do. So there's your organizational clubs and private member organizations. As far as that's concerned, it's a contractual situation. So if you sign a contract or create a PMA and the other members sign the PMA, you can hold the members to whatever set of law that you want. Because remember, maximum of law states that the contract makes the law. And that's also why there are clauses in both the state and federal constitutions which specifically state that there shall be no law passed abrogating the right of contract. You enter into a contract, that's it. That's your agreement. That's the law. So just understand that. And if anybody tries to come in your way and say, "Oh, you're selling eggs and you need a license for that," sorry, I'm not selling anything, Mr. Khazarian mob black boot moron. I am trading this between a private membership organization, and all of us have contracts between each other. This is not open for business. This is not everybody welcome here. In fact, you're not welcome here. Now get the fuck out of here. Okay? That's how you keep them out of your pocket permanently and out of your business permanently. So make sure that everybody signs PMA. Then not only in your PMA can you also state, and this was something that Blue Star told me about, or he thought up the other day, and I was like, wow, that's brilliant. What he said is that in your PMA, you should add that every member of the PMA is one of the people of, whatever state you're in, meaning that you're all sovereign, that you're an American, that you've come of full age, that you've been found to be living, that you can handle your own affairs, and that you're all not citizens of the United States, and that you're lawfully domiciled in the republic of which you live, meaning that you're not a resident. So if you do all that on top of it, and then any stupid attorney or any Roman civil law was to try to come in and infiltrate you, you just simply lay down that contract and be like, look, shut up. This is what we've all agreed to. This is who we are. And our business is none of yours. Now fuck off. And that's the end of it. And there's nothing they can do about it because of those clauses in the Constitution, both state and federal, which I just mentioned. You cannot abrogate the right of contract. So, okay, so that's that. Number 8, building your own business. So learn how to be your own boss. If anybody's still being a wage slave, hopefully they love what they do and you're not doing it because you have to nowadays. With the internet, you can pretty much learn how to do anything. This is what I do because I kind of fell into it, a long, long time ago. And I guess I happen to be good at it. So this is what I do. I teach people how to be free and I teach people law and all the rest of these aspects of how to be sovereign, because that's what I like to do. I like to teach people how to be free. So first thing, pick your passion. What are you passionate about? That's the first thing. And if you have to make a long laundry list and then narrow it down, fine. If you don't have to narrow it down to one thing either, because being a good entrepreneur is about having multiple different streams of income. That's the way you stay self-reliant as far as your business and your income is concerned, as far as your money is concerned, as far as your flow of energy, if you want to put it that way, right? Next is know your market, industry, or your sector. This is something that you can learn about as you go. Deliver value to others. This is how other people are going to find you and they're going to come back to you and they're going to tell other people about you. Because if you deliver value to people, the word of mouth will spread. If you deliver lies and falsities to people, well, that will spread. And you might make a little bit of money in the beginning because you'll get a lot of people that really want that silver bullet, or they really want that shortcut to the end of the rainbow, that pot of gold. Well, okay, that's only going to last until people figure out you're a fraud. And I can name names, but I won't. But you get the point. So deliver value to others, whatever that may be. If it's a good product, make it a great product. Invent something. If you can't invent something, then sell people great products that you believe in and deliver that value. If you deliver service, make sure your service is great. Make sure you give good customer service. Make sure that you have good rapport with everyone. Make sure that if there's a problem that somebody brings to you, make sure you fix it immediately. I always do that. Anybody has a question on the VSOF or doesn't understand something, you guys can DM me. And you pretty much all know that I answer you pretty quick. Usually within a day, absolutely, even if I'm out and bouncing around. So deliver value to other people and respect other people for the value that they can give to you as well. And then D, learn to duplicate yourself. Now this comes from all aspects of business. Once you learn how to do something, say you know how to, make a great cup of coffee, right? There is going to come a time when you're going to want to teach other people how to make that same great cup of coffee so that you can open up a cafe so it's not just you running the entire cafe. That's called duplicating yourself. And that's how all businesses are made. And that's how as strange as this might sound, that's literally how all life flows as well. People start out as babies and then they become children. Then they start to learn how to do things. From who? Their parents. What are the parents doing? They're duplicating themselves. In what? In their children. And then the children help out in the home and they start learning how to do certain things. And then that helps perpetuate. And then eventually they have children. And then other people turn into grandparents. And then the grandparents get more help because there's more children. That's how life works. And it's exactly the same way how business works, strange as that sounds. But in order to become financially independent, become wealthy, you have to be able to duplicate yourself. And it doesn't mean that you're using people as slaves. It simply means that that's your time in life to duplicate yourself. Because at all points in time in our life, we were starting out. And that's okay. You start out by yourself, starting to learn something, a subject, pick your passion, get an industry, start to do the thing. That's fine. You have to learn how to do that yourself so that you know when you teach it to somebody else that they're not fucking it up. That's the biggest thing. So whatever it is, make sure that you master it. Okay. All right. So building your own business, I'll leave that. That's there. Investments in finance, just general good life advice. Save 10% of what you earn. Invest in sound endeavors with sound returns. I don't think I need to explain that. But, just make sure you're not losing money wherever you put it. Like, again, keep your money out of the bank because it's going to go down, not up. And then at the bottom of every section, so there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many numbers there are. And then there's a 360. This 360 number, this is the last section of every single section of every single quadrant. So when you have the different sections, so you have, this is self-reliance, self-awareness, self-governance, self-defense. Then the next circle out deals with the family unit, which we'll see here. Okay, so next is Self-Reliance 2. This is self-reliance. This is your own family and your own house. So this gets into things that, everybody can help doing together. Food processing, food storage, home energy and heat sources, right? So again, learn how to do that. And then reference. And of course, there's other things that I can put into self-reliance as far as family and house is concerned, like, larger things is gardening and whatnot. But again, you always have to learn how to do it yourself first before you can teach other people how to do it, right? And then R3. So as we're going out here, you're seeing the different circles. So R1 is here. R2 is here, R3, and then R4. All the quadrants work on this 4 principle of the various different sections, okay? So self-reliance now here, R3, we're talking about a self-reliant community or a self-reliant county. So in your county, learn what is manufactured in your county. What manufacturing plants are in your county, okay? What gets made there? Learn about soil conservation. Learn about how to improve the soil around your county. If you got a bunch of farmers that are spraying Monsanto, well, start telling them not to do that. Start teaching them about forest conservation. Start teaching them about forest gardening. Mass food storage. Now, this might be the single most important one for all of R3, okay? Mass food storage, grain bins, and community food sellers. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever traveled Europe, but when I traveled around Europe, one of the most fascinating things that I found, particularly in the Northern European countries, were in the old towns, they had these enormous community food sellers. Usually they were just these enormous, long corridor half domes, or sorry, not half domes, but half cylinder kind of things. They must have been, as far as a size of houses are concerned, they were probably 3 or 4 stories tall, and they were probably 2 to 3 city blocks long. And the whole entire thing was covered with, I don't even know how thick these things were. They were probably, oh God, some of them were probably 10 foot thick of earthen on top of it. And they were just massive masonry on the inside, all domed, completely over, so they could hold all the rest of that weight. And that was where they stored the community surplus of food. It was a massive place that everybody could come and store it so that they knew that they wouldn't starve in the middle of winter. Now, nobody does this anymore. In fact, nobody even has their own root cellar. So I would start first, if you can, by creating your own root cellar. And then, if you can't, get with people that have the capacity or have the land that you could build a root cellar on. Maybe they have a little bit of a hill, right? You guys can build into it. Maybe you can borrow from somebody else a backhoe. So you get the guy with the backhoe into it, you get the guy that owns the land into it, and then you get 3 or 4 more people into it that are willing to take a hold of and manage and keep track of and rotate things out of the root cellar. That's their job. Now, I know I might sound slightly communistic here, but this has nothing to do with communism. This has to do with human survival over millennia. Okay? So it's very important to start being able to do this so that we're not dependent even on the electric grid. Okay? Because modern refrigeration is again, a fairly modern thing. It's kind of new to us as far as human beings is concerned. And this is how we stored everything before. We stored it in large grain bins, made sure that the grain was dry, made sure that it didn't rot, and we made sure that we had community food sellers. So seriously think about this, guys, as far as your community organization is concerned, because it's very, very important to do this and to get it going. Also with that is a community seed bank. Everybody should have a community seed bank where they bring seeds in and exchange them with each other, and that you guys keep them in good order, meaning rotate the seeds out, know the various different types of things that will grow in your zone, whatever it may be. Get people interested in learning about various different types of seeds. Make sure that they're heirloom, make sure they're non-GMO, and make sure that somebody is planting each one of those types of seeds each year, if for no other reason, to simply make sure that you guys have that seed for the next year. Now, normally if seeds are saved correctly, they should last about 4 to 5 years, depending on what plant it is. Some plants will last longer than that, and some can even last for 10 years or even 15 years if they're vacuum sealed and they're, say, put in a refrigerator or even frozen. But seed banks are extremely important. This is something else that also just communities just simply used to do, and we need to get back to that. Next thing for Self-Reliant Community County, mining and extraction. What are the resources in your county? Are there any? Do you have any mines of any sort? Is there silver, gold, iron, anything, right? Even flint, strange as that may sound, even if you got to go back to Namp Flint, you might want to know if there's a place where you can get flint from. Or anything else, limestone, whatever it may be, right? Take an inventory of your county and your surrounding area, okay? It's important, because then you know what's there in case shit hits the fan and all the distance you can go is with your horse and buggy. Well, then guess what? You know what you can go pick up a load of and bring back, right? Then fair trade organizations. This kind of goes along with what I was talking about before, but these are more a county-wide type of thing, so you get organized as far as your county is concerned. And then unions, if you have to, deal with corporations, make sure that you guys have collective bargaining power, because obviously that's where the 5-day work week came from, and overtime, is that a lot of people died for that, particularly in America, before we the people kind of took back the corporation's power and said, okay, you're not doing that anymore. And then finally, last section is self-reliant as far as the state or the republic. So this gets into administering your public servant, of which Viper's having a fun time doing right now in Florida. Service on your public trustees of your estate doc set, meaning the VSOF status doc set, to tell them, hey, look, this is where the line is, don't cross it. The use of constitutional money, which I already spoke of, and then obviously Article 1, Section 10, Constitution. And then other things, works in progress as far as the self-reliance for state and republic, I will put into the self-reliance section as it comes in. And I also, that something that's not in the master file, which Corbett actually stated, and there was a couple other gentlemen that have actually joined the VSOF recently that are into cryptocurrency. I put a section in Self-Reliance for business, crypto, and investments. This is where the conversation can be had for anybody that's interested in talking about crypto, and also just anybody that's interested in talking about how to build a business and what's good investments. If you have any investment advice and you think, hey, this next company's great, they're invented this and they're going public, whatever it may be, that's where the conversation is to be had as far as those subjects are concerned in the self-reliance section. So you guys can throw all the crypto stuff in there that you want. I'm trying to learn that subject. I'm pretty much a Luddite when it comes to anything regarding crypto. I understand how blockchain works, sort of. I mean, to the extent that I understand generally how the system is set up, but I don't know, say, the specifics of how specific blockchains work and whatnot. So I'll be happy to learn from all you guys if you want, post your information in there as far as how it works. As a preliminary, I just put up a blockchain and crypto vocabulary list. I just found this online and I just put it into a Word doc and put it up so that people can get the general gist of the basic vocabulary of these subjects, which of course, obviously everybody needs. Obviously if you start to learn law, you'd better have Blackstone's commentaries next to you and you'd better have a copy of Bouvier's Law Dictionary. So I figured good place to start. the conversation is with a vocab list. So that's that. And then the computer tech room, this is also one that's not necessarily in the Self-Reliance master file that I have for the VSOF. I thought that, but there's been a lot of discussion about different things in physics, fun stuff that people have brought up. And it's always good to keep up with invention. I think that's important. And then computer tech room, this is for people who want to talk about things like servers, routing, file sharing, different platforms, different hardware setups, Linux servers, how to use Linux, different operating systems, how to stay private, how to run your platforms online. What are the best platforms to run online? All that stuff is under a computer tech room, okay? And I'll probably create a forum room also for computer tech, because this would be a subject that I don't want to lose a lot of things in. So I'll probably make a companion for that as well. And one last little thing, because we're kind of getting a little bit past time here. If anybody else has anything for questions, or if you'd like to comment, please go ahead and make a comment or put it into chat. One last thing that I just wanted to say to everybody about how the flow of the VSOF server works as a whole. If you guys are bouncing around and you're thinking, wow, there's just like way too much information here, you can close off whole sections of Guilded. All you have to do is just click on the section and it'll just minimize it. So you can minimize every section of the Guilded server all the way down and just have just the main sections open if you want. And then it looks like this. So you can just scroll up and down very quickly and see if anybody's posted anything. And if they have, then just that room will light up. So that way you don't have to scroll and scroll and scroll and constantly go through all of the various different sections. If you just kind of want to be the fly on the wall kind of guy and just want to check out what we're doing, well, then you can just close up all the rooms and just only look at when people post something. That's totally fine. So I just wanted to show that to everybody just as a simple little kind of housekeeping thing for Guilded. Okay, so let me scroll back up through chat and see if there's anything that anybody wanted to add or make a comment on. Thanks everybody for posting all of the links tonight as well. That always helps. I'll do everybody a favor and I will grab the links that we've posted tonight and I'll put them in a simple Word doc and I'll post them into the Mega file for tonight so that we don't lose them. Okay, I guess nobody else had any questions really. Oh wait, Corey had a question. I see crypto as just man-made scarcity. Besides crypt and block and chain, it appears right in your face disclosure. This is how this community sees these instruments. I don't judge what people want to do with their own money or their own energy. I honestly don't know enough about blockchain yet to say anything to anybody about anything. I mean, I will say this. There was someone that came to me about how to mine Bitcoin. I think it was probably like 2 or 3 months into the whole creation of the thing. And so I'm just going to tell you, I missed that window, because if I would have done that for the entire time when it started, I would have been one of those Bitcoin millionaires and I'd be retired right now. But, so that's my little side story about crypto and blockchain. But, other than that, I'm no expert in it one way or the other. So I'm just looking forward to what anybody and everybody can teach as far as blockchain, as far as putting it into the business and crypto investments. And I'll just learn as I go. So I don't have any up or down as far as that's concerned. There are people on the VSOF server that do know about crypto and they trade it and they know how to use it and so on and so forth. And that's fine. That's great. I don't judge anybody. I can never judge anybody about anything that I specifically don't have any authority to talk about. So I just leave it at that. So, okay. So if there's nothing else for tonight and if there's no questions, I will close it up for the night. So thank all you guys for showing up and thank everybody for coming to the Vocational Science of Freedom Saturday Night Civics and Sovereignty class. And this has been Self-Reliance. And next Saturday, we will move on to self-awareness. So until next time, hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Get out there and plant those seeds, get your gardens going. And until next time, stay safe and stay sovereign.